It is a great pleasure to warmly welcome Mr. Tamblyn Lord, a highly respected mindfulness and yoga teacher whose inspiring journey has touched countless lives since 2003. Currently based in Melbourne, Australia, he lives and serves as a senior level instructor and teacher training facilitator, sharing his expertise through public classes at Yoga Flame and Yoga Spot, as well as through private sessions, workshops, and international teachings, teachers training programs. Beyond Yoga, Tamblyn brings a rich creative dimension to his work through his experience in acting and voice performance, along with his passion for hiking and photography. Guided by his uplifting life motto, life should be enjoyed, not endured. He encourages others to embrace joy, presence, authenticity. Mr. Lords embodies wisdom, warmth, creativity, and genuine commitment to helping individuals cultivate balance, resilience, and a deeper appreciation for life's journey. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Mr. Tamblyn Lord.
Namaste, Tamlinji. Most welcome. All stage is yours to know about adopting traditional practice for Western bodies and timetables. Very interesting. Thank you.
Namaste. I'm not actually hearing you at the moment. Anyway, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me, because I've been teaching yoga for 20 odd years now in mindfulness practices, and appreciating that the balance of being able to acknowledge and respectfully pay your dues, if you like, to the history and the reference of yoga over the centuries, but bringing it into a modern perspective or modern action is not necessarily always practical. And certainly in the time that I've been mentoring here with yoga, I found that people struggle with the balance of what they want and what they need. And particularly when you're running a business of yoga, you need to find a balance of those two as well, because if you just give people what they want, you're not actually serving their energetic space. You're, in a way, you're coaxing their ego. And I love that Josh mentioned about them being large, because if we're able to bring an awareness to our students that the practice is about enlarging our energy, not our ego, we may find that they in themselves will get great results, which may in fact spark some more further curiosity for them to continue the practice. We're very much bound in the West by a quick fix, looking for answers either through technology or taking a pill or relying on somebody else to support us within that. And that space of svadhyaya, of self-inquiry, of being able to look within ourselves, is in a way just very superficial in the Western practice, because we're very much bound by what we see on the social media, Instagram, Facebook, about people doing wonderful postures and looking great doing yoga. But the reality is that it's not one system that needs to fit everybody. The individual needs to find a way to adapt themselves to a practice that balances discipline as well as self-inquiry, but also joy, having a sense of appreciation personally and communally with what we're doing. And we get a little bit lost in our own heads and in the maya, the illusion of being able to become this beautiful body and being through just doing asana alone. And as I've been practicing on the mat and off the mat, I've found that the more focus I have on the other limbs of yoga, niyama and yama, but also the pranayama, to develop the focus as well as my meditation, helps me to serve students in a much better way, that I help them to realize that that access to being valuable to themselves is also going to be valuable to the community. And I found that initially I was teaching yoga for 2 hours when I first started, and now it's come down to an hour or 45 minutes. And that's that balance of giving students what they want, because they're always on the go, having to do things. But by actually offering something more of pranayama or or dharana within the focus in the practice and intention, if you like. It's letting the students be aware that yoga is not an exercise. So we can shorten the classes as long as our intention is valid and carried through that practice. Because I found personally that when I was initially started practicing yoga, I was doing very dynamic practices and I was really enjoying it, and I was doing it more but out of enthusiasm, not recognizing that it was my ego competing with itself. And in being able to then step back a little bit and slow my practice down and appreciate the other limbs of the yoga, I then could experience what that space of joy was, and recognizing how the three spaces of mind, body, breath come into play, and that the breath, your energy, is what is leading the practice, not being bound or attached so much to your thoughts and your body, but recognizing that through your energetic space, we are becoming large, and we're not bound by having to get the perfect posture or get it deeper or do more and more and more, but rather actually refine things so that as we recognize how small we are, yet connected, then our energy is endless. We don't have to be bound by the finite mind or the body. I'm really drawn to the Patanjali's Sutra 1.2 that suggests of yogaschita vritti nirodha, where we're stilling the fluctuations of our mind. But a lot of people in the West are practicing where they're overstimulating the mind because they're type A personalities and go-getters, and they want to be doing hard, fast yoga because they tell themselves they're bored if they're going to be sitting and just contemplating and breathing. They don't need to do that. It's too confronting. Not that they may say that, they just say they're bored. But what they need is that practice to work as an antithesis to what their life is already. Go, go, go. So to give themselves space, they then can start to appreciate how breath and well-being comes from yourself, not from relying on external sources. And to see that arc and that recognition and that embodiment within my students is a very rewarding experience. That I look at the practice of teaching and sharing yoga as a privilege, that you get to balance people's energy, and then you see how they relate that on the mat, but also off the mat. And we don't have to be doing a practice for 2 hours a day, every day, to have access to that. And I've learned how to distill the essence of what yoga is to me, to share that with my students as a universal experience. So whether it's an hour, whether it's even just 10 minutes of sitting with yourself and finding that space in the Western world, the busy lives that we lead, it's giving you the opportunity to breathe. And the breath, when we are aware of it, is that dynamic, that space that gives us the ability to appreciate what we're doing in our own life, in our own existence, as a metaphysical appreciation. So we're not there turning up to yoga because we're told it's going to make us feel better and we need to be doing physical exercise, but we're turning up because we want to learn more about ourselves and we want to share that experience communally. Technology has been fantastic, particularly through COVID, of allowing us to share our yoga enthusiasm online. But without that person-to-person exchange that you can have live in the studio when you're there doing a workshop or leading a class or leading a retreat, that heart-to-heart space, anahata, is invaluable. It's immeasurable because it is that large experience and expanse and transaction, if you like, or shared experience that speaks to the heart, not just from what we know, not just from what we've learnt, but what we've shared. Yoga is a shared experience, and we don't need to hide ourselves away to appreciate what we can learn about ourselves. And I'm finding that within the practice of modern yoga, as long as we're still appreciative of the history of it, the subjectivity of yoga means that it's open to interpretation, whatever level of experience you have. And this concept of I can't do yoga in the West because I'm too old, or I'm too unfit, or I can't touch my toes. It's like, well, bend your knees and you can touch your toes. You're never too old to do anything. It's never too old, never too late with yoga practices. And the yoga practice can always be adapted to whatever level of experience and mobility and agility you have. And when people take the discipline to take time out of their day initially to start practicing, and then recognize that the practice itself is starting to support their day, then naturally it's a no-brainer that they draw towards finding moments to be able to practice throughout. So that means that they may not be practicing an hour every day publicly, but they're starting to practice a little bit at home for a few minutes here in the morning, or during the day, or after work, or before they go to bed. And then if they can get into the studio once, twice, 3 times, or regularly through the week, it all starts to build. It all starts to make sense. It all starts to land into a space of stillness. And when we're still, we're capable of anything energetically. And imagine what the world could be if we all had a sense of stillness. We were able to access that stillness within us, singularly and collectively. The frequency will be far more coherent and cohesive for us all. It's a pretty exciting prospect that we can delve within to ourselves, find that self-empowerment, whichever part of the world we're in, as long as we're not reliant on technology or just something else telling us what to do. Look within ourselves, explore your possibility, and give people the opportunity to take control for themselves, to be able to share their strength with others rather than indulge their egos. And if we can do that here in the West, I'm confident that within recognizing their own self-empowerment, they'll look to the history, they'll look to the philosophy of yoga and recognize that it doesn't have to just be for answers, but it's actually for fulfillment.
Thank you very much, Tamblyn ji. When I was listening to you, you spoke so profoundly about the ancient wisdom, but you made it sure that ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. Truth is one, and the interpretation may be varied. And that's why you actually said that this, how small we are and yet connected. This is what is the message of spirituality that gives to us. And I loved when you reminded us that yoga is off the mat also. So it is much needed that it's a complete disciplines of science. And this has to be reinforced again and again by masters like you so that people can explore more and dive deeper into it. It was a pleasure listening to you. So kind of you. Thank you. Thank you very much.